Thato wa Magogodi, the platform is yours, my brother.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sipho Mantula, Mwafrika Mantula. We are being too serious. Maybe we must break a bit into song and say, from Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar, from Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar. Happy George Floyd is our brother. We won't let him go unnoticed. Happy George Floyd is our brother. We won't let him go unnoticed. A white supremacy must fall. Get down with racism now, down. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, fellow Africans, Master of Ceremony, Mwafrika Mantula, Dr. Desta Megu, Professor Horace Campbell. Perhaps to capture the mood of this occasion, as a welcome from the Kgodiso Setšhaba Foundation, Kgodiso Setšhaba ya Africa. Perhaps we must begin by saying that we stand combat ready to fight back at this racism. As all of us gathered here today surely do, it is because we've been privileged to stand on the shoulders of giants like you. Professor, it is your generation that has taught us that to complete the Renaissance project of this continent, it is going to be important that we confront the last bastions of racism that exist in the world today. Piri George Floyd has reminded us with his life that with racism still alive, the black man will still not be able to breathe. With racism still alive, we will not have a functional and peaceful global community, because we will fight back if those entrusted with the law will continue to be the very breakers of that law. With racism still alive, we will not have a functional global community. With racism still alive, the commanding heights of the global economy will still be in the hands of whites. And we will continue to be tempted as the downtrodden to use counterfeit dollar bills in order to purchase the goods we need to survive. With racism still alive, human rights violations against the black body will remain more pandemic than COVID-19. You know, a year after we had ushered in our own democracy in South Africa, a year after we thought that we had at least destroyed apartheid politically, a South African author by the name of Zanemvula Zakes Mda penned and published a book called Ways of Dying. In the seminal introduction of this book, Zakes Mda starts by building a character of a young man who's been destroyed and murdered by the system, by the enemy. As a premonition of what we are going through today, the tome begins by saying, I open quotes, there are many ways of dying. The nurse shouts at us. Pain is etched in his voice and rage is mapped in his face, but we listen in silence. This, our brother's way, is a way that has left us without words in our mouths. Close quote. George Floyd should not have died this way. His departure symbolically reminds us of the passing of Hector Peterson as we celebrate June month in South Africa, the death of Chris Hani, Stephen Bantu Biko, your Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Samora Machel. All of these Africans, all of us would remember, perished at the literal and proverbial suffocation of this very knee, whose purpose was to ensure that the lives of these Africans does not continue because it defined a direct threat to control of global affairs by the white capitalist system. Now, the passing of George Floyd and the others in recent history, in my view, should be meaningfully a stark reminder to all of us as Africans, to all of us as Blacks in general and Africans in particular, that we should stand united against this scourge of oppression of the human being, but particularly this anti-racism, which is a manifestation of white supremacy. Our unity as Africans in this regard is sacrosanct. And perhaps we must play it like a cassette, repeatedly in our ears in a language that we will all hear as Africans. And perhaps say in Kiswahili, Mini naha mini umoja, wakati ya kaka na dada sanzo katika bara ya Afrika. Mini naha mini umoja, wakati ya kaka na dada sanzo katika bara ya Afrika. Therefore, grounding all of these things to make a very clear point of sending a very clear message to those who are still racist, wherever they exist in the world, that as Africans in general, as Blacks in general and Africans in particular, from Cape to Cairo, Morocco to Madagascar, and beyond into the tentacles of the diaspora, we are no longer prepared to play pool until the rules of the game have changed. Victory and game over must now mean that the black ball can now sink the white ball. For us to remind ourselves that indeed we are equal human beings after all. This, our brother's way, is a way that has left us without words in our mouths, but political pangas in our hands, ready to fight back at this racism, which is a manifestation of white supremacy. We say all of these things because we know that we as Blacks cannot be racist. We simply do not have the powers to be. And maybe to reclaim our breath as Africans, we need to call upon Africans across the diaspora. We need to call upon all revolutionaries, black and white, in the next 8 days to boycott all symbols of Americanism and really say to white American shops that they too must experience not breathing in the next 8 days. 8 is now our new political number, in tribute to the experience of 8 minutes and 46 seconds that George Floyd had to endure under the brutal knee of that policeman, Derek Chauvin, the derelict chauvinist, racist bigot, and his accomplices, white policemen in the cold streets of Minneapolis. Because this, our brother's way, is a way that has left us without words in our mouth, but bullets and political pangas in our hands, ready to fight back at this racism, which is a manifestation of white supremacy. So the message as Kodiso Chaba that we want to send is, as we demand freedom and equality for George Floyd and the others, we must begin to push, pursue, and prevail in a message that says white supremacy must fall and the time is now. But move beyond the slogans to the substance, and define in clear terms what needs to be done in order for us to reverse this white supremacy. And in my view, it should begin to include concrete things, like confronting the whole question of defining for ourselves as Africans an antithesis to white supremacy, which must include how do we ensure that Africa now gets a permanent seat on the UN Security Council, because the world is still operating on the political dynamics of the Second World War. Hitherto, as the world changes today, Africa must have a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. And we must capture this revolutionary moment as things that must begin to say. We want to see Africans also having power in global affairs, and the UN is an important pocket of that power. And at this moment, to show that these whites are not racist, they must give the African countries a permanent seat. We must also talk about the concrete question of meaningful economic participation in the commanding heights of the global economy, beyond the slogans to the substance of ensuring that we are able to control our minerals and the way they would flow. And
Thato, we are losing you.
For the benefit of the hoi polloi in the condition of education. So in conclusion, I'm saying the time has come for us to move from slogans to substance. And most importantly, we must define the antithesis of white supremacy in very clear terms. And we have created this platform for us to begin to create a frame of that discussion. As I've said, with those few words, let us welcome everyone who's here. Let the discussion continue. Thank you very much.